Hey everybody, welcome to Coffee Time Q&A, episode 8. My name's Steve Roby. I'm the lead pastor of Water's Edge Church, and we have some special guests with us today. Little different faces around the table. We have Bridget Shaffer, who was our former children's ministry director, public educator, super mom, super wife, awesome woman of God. And then now we have our current children's ministry director, Katielynne Gay, who is also educator, super mom, super wife, woman of God, right? And we are here getting ready to drink some good coffee, and we're going to talk about children's ministry, talk about, being parents, discipling our kids. But first, we need to taste this good cup. This is from my favorite barista, our live-in barista, Jacob Farler.
Jacob.
Yeah, Jacob works at Roast Rider, local coffee shop in Virginia Beach, and he brought this home. This is a doTERRA Sundrop, which is a Brazilian coffee. It has notes of blueberry, butterscotch, and clove. So,
wow. Did you catch all those notes?
Interested to give it a try.
Right.
You got to cheers first.
Oh, cheers. I'm
Got to learn
smelling.
the routine. Cheers, mate. Give it a taste.
Do I swish and spit now?
What do you think? All right.
Love it.
It's good.
It's
Yes.
very good.
Good
I like a
smooth.
stronger
Are
coffee.
you guys big coffee drinkers?
I am.
Yeah.
Team coffee.
Every day.
Yes.
You're straight up black coffee.
Straight up, yeah.
You too, sometimes?
Yeah, normally I'll use like a little bit of stevia.
Just this much?
Just a little bit.
A little pinch?
Yeah.
Well, we were talking a little bit earlier, and it can be a little nerve-wracking sitting around the table. How are you doing? Do you nerves? You guys all right? You ready for this?
My seatbelt's on. We're good.
Yeah, we are good.
Yeah. No, we.
Are you nervous? You never
I
know
know.
what's
Right,
going
like,
to come
I don't
out of
know.
my mouth, so he's probably...
I'm more nervous about what you're going to say than I am about anything else. I almost was going to ask the question, what's it like to work with me? But I decided not to ask that question.
But I could answer it anyway.
Right.
No, I'm so happy to have you guys on here for a couple of reasons. One, we did the episode a few weeks back with Adam and Rodney about leadership during the pandemic. And one of the things we didn't get into, because there's a million directions, so many things to talk about with that. We didn't get into the children's ministry aspect of that. So not only did we stop gathering for a couple of months as a whole church, when we started gathering again, we still did not have children's ministry for several months. And so there's a number of things, that I've certainly come to believe that the Lord was doing in that time, not just for us personally, but as a nation, as a church in our country, thinking about families being at home so much more time they had together around the table at home. But in the process of our leadership in the pandemic, we talked a little bit about the 2-month period where I went to Texas. And I went to Texas, and you were an employee at Water's Edge as our children's ministry director, and I came back, and you were gone. And Katielynne was now the children's ministry director. Now, I was very involved in that, but that transition did take place during that time. And maybe talk first, Bridget, just about kind of what led to that decision. As you began thinking, it wasn't something that just came out of nowhere, but it was something that we talked about before. That process of transition and how you and I both came to really recognize that Katielynne was the one that should succeed you.
Well, God, it was just such a providential thing, honestly. I was feeling like I needed to step back, not because I was unhappy or that I didn't love my job or the people or kids at Water's Edge, but that it was just time. And because of things going on in my life, my daughter getting married soon and just wanting to be completely available for that, I was really starting to feel it strongly. And so mentioned it to Steve. And actually, the first time I met Katielynne, when they first came to the church, we as a staff went out to lunch with her and Matt.
Tropical smoothie.
Yeah.
One of our other favorite
When
spots.
you could eat inside. No.
Yes. Met her without a mask. But right away, like in my head, I was like, okay, she could be the one. And I just always knew that God would bring the right person and that we would know when that time had come. And to me, it was very clear, just that whole process of figuring out. God worked it all out. I
Yeah.
mean, you could
Yeah.
talk more to that.
Yeah, so but you didn't come, to Water's Edge. Initially you guys came.
Right.
We'd been friends for a little while at the gym. You and your husband Matt worked at the gym. Known Matt for a while. He'd been to the church. Matt had sang at the church before. But you didn't come with that intention.
No.
And so here we are. Now you're on staff.
Yes.
Yeah. Talk about that. Maybe like what was that like when that idea was first pitched to you? Was that something that you thought of before, or just kind of came out of nowhere for you?
Yeah. So back to that meeting, I remember we were considering transitioning into Water's Edge as a family. And kids ministry is always one of the most important factors for us, not only for our kids. But at the time I was serving in children's ministry somewhere else as one of the weekly volunteers. And I remember telling Matt afterwards, man, it's all so good. I just hope there's space for me in that lane. I was getting my grind, and I'm man, I just
Bridget's here.
Yeah.
I was kidding.
No, not at that point
Make
though.
room
But yeah,
in my lane.
So, yeah. But I was just that was one of my biggest things. Man, I just really want to be able to serve in that way. And so through the process of everything, I mean, it totally was just God orchestrating. Yeah, where I was working at the gym, I just knew in my heart it was time to transition from there. And right about the same time as when the conversation started happening. So,
yeah, it really was incredible. I look back, there's so much this year I can look back on and be thankful, despite the challenges that so many families have faced, despite the hardships that I think we've all had to face to some degree. It is a beautiful thing to reflect on the hand of God in it all, and how God's providence has led us to be where we are now. And this was certainly a big part of that, the transition. But I think even early on when the church wasn't meeting, something began to stir in our hearts, about families and the fact that so many moms and dads were now at home, unable to physically go to work, teleworking. Most were home educating for the first time, having to homeschool the kids. And we couldn't supplement their Christian education physically, as we had before when kids would come to church. And so now we had to think about what does children's ministry look like when you can't physically minister to kids. And so maybe talk about that a little bit, because it kind of led to some good conversations about the role of parents in the home, led to some good conversations about what is the role of a children's ministry in the life of a church. So let's talk a little bit about philosophy of ministry. How do you kind of view that? Bridget, I'll start with you, of the church's role in ministering to kids.
Well, it's a big question. I strongly believe, and I know that you guys agree, that it really is the parents' responsibility to disciple and train their own children, and that our job is to come alongside them and equip them to do that in the best possible way that we can. So many people have not grown up in homes, I didn't, where they were strongly discipled or in a solid church, and so parents feel very ill-equipped. So just the challenge of not having them in person on Sundays, being able to see them tangibly and just look them in the face and say, how you doing? All that was removed, and it was really a struggle. And I remember talking with you, and we were I'm like, I don't think they're watching the videos. Are they doing the things that we're putting out there? But the more we talked with parents, and when you put into practice the phone calling thing, and we just worked through the directory and got in touch with people, I think that was key to really just have some good conversations with parents about what they were dealing with. Because, like you said, the homeschooling, and then the church stuff on top of that, and just trying to find time in their day to do their work. Some of them were working from home and trying to juggle all that. It was more than just discipling their kids. It's all this was thrown at them the same time.
For sure. And it was just something new for a lot of parents. If it hasn't been put into practice to do some sort of family, time around the Word together, prayer time, dinner time conversations, Bible study, any kind of family worship, it can be a pretty daunting task for parents, and they can certainly feel like they're not equipped. But we, have come to view our role as a church as helping equip people for that ministry, because that is the ministry of the parents. So I heard you say parents are the primary they have primary responsibility for the spiritual formation of their children. And then the church would then be supplementary to that. Now, maybe you can kind of talk about that a little bit, being a young mom with two kids during that time.
And I was like in it.
Yeah. So you have two kids.
Yes, two kids, both in elementary school. Yep. So we were hit pretty hard with the transition. I think it was a little different for us, though, because we have always made a point to disciple our children in the home, doing family devotions and things like that. So our stress was, now we have to deal with all this other stuff. So how do you find that balance of like, yes, our Bible story time is as important as getting your schoolwork done, when normally they go outside of the home for us to do that schoolwork part. So finding that rhythm was definitely the most challenging part for us. Yes.
Yeah. So you think, it's obviously been very stressful for a lot of families. If you're sitting down having a conversation with a young mom and she's just like Bridget, Katielynne, I've had it up to here. Like the kids, it's hard enough to get them to sit in front of a computer for virtual learning. They're stressed out. They got pent up energy. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, you're telling me I need to, teach them about God. And so what kind of advice would you give, a mom like that or a young couple? Just thoughts.
I always start with reminding them to give themselves grace in that moment. It's okay to like take a pause and like just take a moment, seek God for yourself first. A lot of times we feel like we're not equipped because we have some form of like false, like self put on expectation of the parents we're going to be or how we're going to disciple our kids. And it can be so simple, especially like with your kids, like take it back.
Yeah, maybe even a false picture of what that looks like.
Right.
So I think people have a picture in their mind of, maybe the father or the mother sitting around,
yes.
the kids sitting there so nicely with their hands folded, listening.
Never.
Teach me, mother. Teach
Right.
me, father, about the Lord,
Yes.
and that just never would have happened. I remember just when our kids were real little, trying to read the Bible to them, and I got one of them crawling on me. One of
Yes.
them's constantly engaged with whatever pet we had in the house at the time.
Yes.
And you're like, listen up, and it can be like super challenging. So I think we have the false picture of what it looks like. Mm-hmm. But biblically, when you listen to like Deuteronomy 6 is one of the passages we talk about quite a bit. It really is all of life. So it's like when you lie down at night, when you wake up in the morning, when you're sitting at the table, when you're walking, so every moment of life, every event in your child's life can become an opportunity,
Exactly.
to teach them about the Lord and His grace and His patience and His loving kindness, His mercy and His, discipline. And so I think that getting that picture of this,
Right.
Little House on the Prairie
Exactly.
moment out of our heads is a big thing. Anything else around that? What do you guys think?
No, and to chime off of what you said, it's totally about finding those teachable moments throughout the day too, and throughout each experience that you're going through, whether it's them or as a family, and how can I bring in like the word of God or the truth of God in this moment to be able to teach them how this applies to not only life, but your walk with God ultimately.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
finding those
See,
moments.
this is why, you guys, see, God is so good just to bring you to us, and we're so blessed by you and your family. With parents in that situation, so many times I've said, you just need to chill. It's really okay. And I use the phrase, they talk about putting the oxygen mask on first when you're in an airplane. And I think spiritually, if parents would just step back, quit worrying about what that looks like, and take time for them to grow in their walk with the Lord, seek other parents, seek other people, resources to help them in that. And then there's this natural, beautiful overflow that just comes out when you yourself are walking with the Lord. And what you said about the rhythm of the day, that's so true. Like in the car, look at that tree, or you see an accident, let's stop and pray. You want to weave it into the rhythm of your day and not worry about this perfect quiet time. it should be no secret to your kids that you love the Lord. They should see you, hear
Right.
you talking
Amen.
about him all throughout the day.
Yeah. So we've always kind of viewed you, and this is a beautiful thing as this mother, because we all know your kids. If people have been at Water's Edge for a while, they know Noah. He's singing every week and playing the keyboard. We know Taylor, who was just recently married. But we look at, I know I'm going to make her cry.
I know,
But we all love Noah and Taylor, and we see them as these young adults who love the Lord, and and so we look at sort of, for lack of a better phrase, like the fruit of your labor, and really pouring into them as a mom, and certainly Gary as a father. But I think people can see that and think like it had always been easy to do that. But yet not all of those teachable moments along the way where you guys really had to have, good, hard conversations with your kids and whatnot.
And you've been a part of that. I mean, Steve, we've gone to him and had hard conversations about all kinds of things in our lives. And the beauty of being a parent is you get to start again. And it's never too late. And I'm sure might be people thinking, oh, my kid's a teenager. It's never too late. And God gave them to you. I say that often, too. Out of the billions of children and parents, he matched you guys together. And he certainly can tell you, and he's right there. Like, seek him, pray. If I could say if there's something I could have done differently, it would have been pray more. Because he knows them inside and out. And I was more likely in many stages to open up a book, call a friend, or Google. What's a verse for this? Noah won't stop, whatever. The thing was, I wish I had just been on my knees more in those times instead of looking all around when he was right there all the time.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that. This is good stuff. Let me throw something at you guys just as we get ready to wrap up. Around Christmas. Christmas is coming up. Favorite Christmas tradition?
Yes. So we do a sugar cookie night like every year. Decorate the cookies.
Matt and the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And see whose is the best. Almost like a gingerbread, but house. But we do cookies.
Favorite Christmas tradition?
that's
I know
so
you got a million of them.
hard. There is so many, and I love traditions.
Yeah.
Last night was beautiful. The gingerbread house building that we do every year.
The annual Roby Shaffer showdown.
Yes, and we usually win, as the Steelers do.
The Steelers.
Yes.
Not last night.
People who love Jesus love the
Usually.
Steelers. We all know that. Gosh,
Steelers fan too. I don't know why we hire Steelers
You're in the
fans
middle.
at
Like,
Water's
dang
Edge.
it.
there's so many things. It's hard for me to even pick. I mean, Christmas Eve with church, and then we go to a cook in front of you, Kyoto type place, and we watch the same movie as y'all do, the nativity movie, and do pajamas.
You've put that into my kids' heart now. They want to have Chinese food every Christmas Eve now. That's what we do now. After church, we
That's
go
so funny.
and have Chinese food.
But I think those things are important. And your kids begin to,
You remember it.
look forward to that, and even remembering in the traditions to bring God in. And that's, I think, an area where I fell short too, because I get so excited about the thing, but remembering to always just talk that in the midst of all the
Kids love
fun.
it. They look forward to it all. Yeah. Well, good stuff. Thank you guys so much. This is such an enjoyable thing. It's good to have some other faces around the table. I get tired of looking at Rodney and Adam. No, I'm just kidding. Totally
Right?
kidding. No, they're awesome.
It's so funny.
All right. Cheers.
Amen, guys.
Yeah.
Wait, don't leave just yet. If you like the video, make sure you give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so yet, click that subscribe button and ding that bell. That way you know when we release new videos. We love you all, and God bless.